Today we'll talk about a sinking ship. It was never more appalling an object. 3 decades earlier, it embarked on an ambitious journey of taking over the entire world. It destroyed whatever came in its way. It ravaged whatever threatened its streak. And then came 2013, when the ship got a new captain. The new captain was ferocious. In his quest to outpace his rivals, he steered the ship towards a perilous journey. A journey of intimidation, violence, and tyranny. And soon the ship found itself sailing in the troubled waters. Massive waves of resentment and uprising began rocking the boat in a manner never seen before. People started fleeing the ship en masse to save their lives from falling prey to their captain's folly. Now let's replace the ship with the communist state of China, and will perfectly echo the current geopolitical miseries of the CCP. Hi and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Atul Mishra. In this video, I will tell you about the 2 messages that the rich Chinese citizens fleeing China for Australia are sending out to the world. Let's begin. Let alone the trade tensions between Australia and China, even the threats of a nuclear war between the 2 arch rivals are not stopping rich Chinese citizens from flocking to Australia. With Australia relaxing its immigration laws after curbing the pandemic, rich Chinese have now found the easiest way out of the CCP's tyranny. Monica Tu, whose firm Black Diamonds helps rich Chinese settle in Australia, predicted wealthy Chinese home buyers will flock to Australia next year despite the current trade issues with China. The firm Black Diamonds has an annual turnover of $200 million, and the business is booming despite the pandemic and burgeoning economic crisis in China. Tu progresses on to describe how people in China cherish the ambitions of having their own houses and businesses in Australia. After all, Australia has a lot of things that are nowhere to be found at home. As Monica Tu weighs in, Australia has a stable political environment, strong economy, and good education. That's what makes Australia a preferred destination for fleeing rich Chinese. So what does this influx of wealthy Chinese citizens in Australia mean for the world? Despite the Chinese government pledging to decimate the Australian economy over the past few months, why are the Chinese citizens rushing to make Australia their new home? This massive exodus of rich Chinese citizens carries 2 big messages for the world. The first message is a foregone conclusion. China's economy is direly wounded, almost on the verge of a collapse. Doing business is almost a crime in the country now. The real estate sector is doomed, with some Chinese now stashing their money in the Japanese real estate sector through illicit means. A country where flaunting richness is considered blasphemous. A country which has become a hellhole for investors. A country where the cash-strapped government is hell-bent to strip its citizens of their money. A country where food and electricity have become as luxurious as liberty and freedom. That country is only destined to witness its fortune sinking sooner than later. The other message that these fleeing Chinese citizens are sending out to the world is that China is hardly prepared to combat its rivals in an open military confrontation. Make no mistake, Australia's trade tensions with the communist nation are fast evolving into a military one. And both countries could even lock horns over the most contentious issue of Taiwan. Australia's Defence Minister Peter Dutton on Saturday had made it clear that it would not be conceivable for Australia not to join Washington in defending the sovereignty of the island nation. As Australia now looks all set to acquire nuclear-powered submarines under the AUKUS security pact between Canberra, London and Washington, the possibility of a nuclear war breaking out in the Indo-Pacific region have only become stronger. China's chief propaganda outlet Global Times had even threatened Australia with a nuclear attack earlier this year. Australia is a far weaker nation than China as far as its military might is concerned. However, the influx of the Chinese rich citizens in Australia paints a starkly different picture. The Chinese rich believe that their country will face a humiliating defeat at the hands of democratic powers should Beijing wage a war on Canberra in the times to come. The Chinese know their country better than any one of us. And if they are placing their bet on Australia in the ongoing tussle between the CCP and Canberra, there must be a reason for it. And that's why wealthy Chinese are now rallying behind Australia's government in their bid to wipe out the CCP's tyranny from the face of this planet.